And Mr. Lopez will not be here, so we'll go ahead and get started.
Call meeting in order, roll call.
Mr. Wright,
Here.
Mr. Hennis,
Here.
Ms. Hawkins,
Here. Okay, so a board agenda review. Is there anything particularly on the board, on the agenda? Dr. Beebe?
I will be back to you, if you want to look at the agenda for, for the regular meeting. If there's anything in particular that I can answer questions or you guys with you, I'm happy to do so.
Was there anything that anybody had particular on the agenda? Chuck? You still looking?
Good.
Okay. Okay, so on to item C, the 2021 potential superintendent goals. Are you prepared to go through those, Dr. Beebe?
I am. Hold on. I'm sorry. I don't have my work computer at home. And again, I apologize. I'm not making tonight. This is the first time I've ever been on the phone for a board meeting. So it's been a little interesting afternoon for me. Mary, did you email me my goals?
I did. They're in that. I sent it to your SVB. Is that where you wanted me to send it?
Yeah.
Okay, it's in there. It says for tonight's
But I'm
meeting.
sorry, I'll just open it. I can open it from there, and so I guess so. President Hopkins, members of the board, the goals, as I've always done in the last couple of years, I presented goals, to you. Then these are nothing for you to vote on yet. These are just the goals that I have put together. For this school year. It's obviously going to be a very unique school year and a little bit different. So these are the prospective goals that I have put together. And so we can certainly have discussion about any of them if you like. But again, you're not going to take action on these tonight. I just wanted you to have them as a preliminary look. And then I plan on bringing them back to you in the October meeting for your formal approval.
And then I think, as we discussed the other day, with these goals too, if there's anything that we want to add, modify, change,
Right.
that
Correct.
this would be our opportunity to look them over and do so.
Yeah. If there's anything, any of these goals that you don't agree with or think that need to have some modification, I am open to doing that. I think the goals are similar to being in line with my goals for the last 2 years.
Okay.
So I think it's important that I set goals and work on them throughout the year to improve our district.
So these are similar to the previous years?
Yes, they're very well. They're going to be. It's in line with what I've done in previous years. I set 6 goals for each year. In some of these, for instance, goal number 3, 4, 5, and 6. I mean, 5 is very much the same as last year. That is my job, to effectively manage operations resources, maximize the quality of services to staff and community. That is my job. And the other 2, 3, 4, and 5 are a continuation of what we've already done. And again, just continuing to improve upon what we've already done as far as the climate goes, as far as creating, a functional district office, looking at different opportunities for our district office space. I'm still working with Richard Wilkie in the city for outside people who are looking to come back. We're hoping Brewer is going to be coming back right after the first of the year. And then again, just finding ways to improve the climate of our school district, by doing what we're doing tonight, continuing to recognize our employees and finding other ways to recognize our employees for the good work that they do for our district.
Steve, just one of the questions I have in
Goal
here.
number one, go ahead.
Yeah, one of the questions that I had specifically was about our work, or the district's work with the elementary school district. I'm just trying to, when I was trying to pick it out in here, that was, I know that's just one of your overall things that you plan on doing, but just so that the district wasn't surprised like they were with the way that
Sure.
the elementary school has made the decision this year, especially since we're a small community.
And I could probably, Member Hennis, I could probably incorporate that into six, not just the creating order, but just creating that functional. I certainly do. We've done a lot of work with the elementary district. We have a joint calendar committee now. There's a lot of things we're doing. So yes, I appreciate the suggestion, and I can certainly incorporate that into one of these goals.
That'd be great, thanks.
And again, I'm not asking for approval. I mean, I just wanted to give them to you. Any feedback the board might want to offer me over the next 2 or 3 weeks, I will be open to that. And then what I would like to do is at the October board meeting, bring back to you the formal goals for the year for your approval.
That sounds great. Like, the big question right now, how are you feeling?
Well, I still got a pretty good headache, and I don't know exactly what took place today. And since we're being recorded in public, I won't get to. But I'm doing all right. I will make it through these 2 meetings and follow through with the advice that I can give. So.
That sounds good, thank you.
And again, I'm very disappointed that I am not there. I've never been on a meeting on the phone, and I so wanted to be there with you to experience the new boardroom for the first time. So we'll have to wait until I guess October to do that.
Well, we're sorry whatever happened to you happened to you. So,
Well, I'd like to know for sure that I don't, and so that's what's the most frustrating thing. So anyhow, but I appreciate it, everybody. I like I said, I continue to feel the support of everybody in our community, in our district, and it is a great place to be, to know that people care about you and will always have you back if you need.
okay. So right on to item D, and that is the modified in-person reopening discussion. And this should be quite a discussion.
So,
I do appreciate the survey that you put out. Go ahead.
Yeah, so before we talk about that, Daniel, I know that you're there. If you can hear me, if you could just put up on the for everybody in the audience, you could put up the last week data from the benchmark, just so that's up.
Okay, there's the summary page is up right now. Is that what you're looking for?
Yeah, the summary page of the three, the summary page of the three, the benchmarks from Arizona Department of Health.
Yes.
Oh, my God. All right, so the shorter answer is we have 1 in the green, sort of, and then 2 in the red.
Yeah, so if you look at that data, remember, if you look at the data, the dot that you see, so if you're looking at the data from right to left, the dot you see the farthest to the right was from August the 9th. And then the next dot to the left is from August the 2nd. So that's how it's working. So you really look at it right to left. So as we look to increase, what has changed this last week is that for the 100 per 100,000, the number of cases per 100,000, we were a red-green, and now we're red-red. And so we've gone backwards a little bit on that. There was stuff in Pinal County over the weekend in Florence. I think there was 171 new cases. I know that Chris Knudsen, the superintendent in that district, had brought in testing to their schools. And so a lot of their schools, we're going to do some testing sites and allow people to test. So, where people test and positive, those things come back. So anyway, if you look then at the percent positivity, we have a green and a red, and that green is a great sign because it's 5.9%. Remember, we had to get below 7% with that benchmark. So that 5.9 is the first time we've dropped below 7%. So if next week the next benchmark to come, if next week that is still under 7, we would be green there. And that's what we want to see, is 2 greens in a row. If you look at the COVID-like illnesses, those are already green, and we've been there for a little while in our county. That seems to be good. So the reason I bring this up and bring it to your attention, and again, this is not the meeting where you're making decisions, but I just wanted to bring it forward. If you go back to the last meeting and you look at the motion that was made and the vote by the governing board, the vote was made that we would reopen modified in person on September 14th if we had met these benchmarks for 2 consecutive weeks prior to the 14th. If you look at this benchmark, because we're red for the number of cases, it is impossible for us to meet that vote because we will at the best be a red-green in that one benchmark this week. It only moves by a week. The other 2, we can be green very easily, but we will have one benchmark where we cannot be green because we're too red right now.
And the
That's
motion,
the reason I bring it up to you, the way the motion was presented and passed. We would not be able to open on the 14th following that motion.
yeah, and I'm just gonna have, since it's in the minutes from the last meeting, I was just gonna have Mary just kind of make sure we read that again, just so that we know 100% of what we agreed to last month, if we could, just so we have a clear understanding of what we said as far as opening this with that previous. You want my microphone?
I think I can talk loud. Okay, so on that particular item,
Minutes on it. There.
oh,
Special meeting?
that was in the wrong one. Okay. So the minutes read that a motion and a second were made to approve September 14th, 2020 for return to modified in-person instruction if all benchmarks as established by the ADHS have been met and students and parents be required to sign a waiver upon their return.
That's perfect, thank you.
Did I hear 2 consecutive? Because I know that was in there.
That wasn't in the motion, that was in the discussion part, that wasn't in the motion part.
Yeah.
Because
So,
these are 2 weeks in the rear, that's,
President Hawkins, what was discussed, at least that I recall, after that, is that once we met those benchmarks, I know that member Lopez had brought that up, that we wanted to see at least 2 weeks of green so that we weren't, we wouldn't be in the position of opening to turn around and close again. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so, so that's kind of what we did. And so, anyway, so that, I'm just bringing that to your attention. And that's why that item is on the formal agenda for the next meeting. Because that's something that you as a board are going to have to decide now. All I'm trying to show you is, and again, that data, with the data presented from Arizona Department of Health, next week, when we'll get new data on Thursday the 3rd at 9 a.m. But because we're red for that first one, the best will be in that benchmark is a red-green, and that's if we hit green, you know, for the on the August 16th date.
Remember, this data is 2 weeks in career,
Right.
so this is, so when you're looking at that stuff from Florence is gonna be on.
And you say from the time we receive the information, it takes probably 2 weeks to get everything in motion to be able to open up the campus. So if.
Oh, yeah, by the time, we have to get food service. I've got to get, some teachers have not been in their room. There's all kinds of things we have to get in place. So what we were saying is, say we would have get that data on the 3rd, that would give me about 10 days to be ready for school. And that's pushing it, but I think we can do that. I think we can, I've talked with food services, I've talked with transportation, I've talked with our building principals. I think we can do it, but that's about the students we could pull off, being ready to open up classes. But the one thing that I have heard from the board, and I know Mr. Lopez about it, is wanting to see at least a couple of weeks of green, so that we were for sure feeling comfortable about reopening.
Yeah, I believe one of his comments was the follow the science and follow the recommendation of our attorney also, as far as, you know, but I guess one of the things that kind of ties into this also is the survey that you've done, the faculty and staff reopening survey. Is this a good time to kind of discuss this a little bit right now? Is that kind of ties together?
We can talk about that part of the discussion. So I presented that to all of you, and I know it's in executive content.
And it was a good survey, and we had a good response.
Yeah,
As
I
far as
was very
presenting to
pleased.
people.
We had 303 employees respond. That we're missing 20 some. So I was hoping for about 250 to 275, and we got 300. I think it's fair, you know, fair. Now, again, you saw the questions that were asked. I think, you know, if you go through that survey, and I'm sorry, I don't have it because I'm not there. I had a hard copy for me. It's in my superintendent's report, so hold on a minute. I gotta pull up. I'm sorry, Mary, if I pull up my superintendent's report, is that where we put the executive,
Yes.
Your update that you sent to the board?
yeah,
Yeah, it should be in there.
okay. Well, if we go through the meeting, if you look at it, whether you're an administrator, you're a teacher, you're a support staff member, no matter where you work, if you look at the first one, if you look at people's comfort level of being back on campus, we were 3.19. Really, we're right dead in the middle. 1 was not comfortable at all, 5 was comfortable at all. So we're about 50-50. We're dead in the middle as you look at employees across in general. If you look at the number, the other concern we have with reopening, and the reason we've been operating the way we are right now, is the number of employees in our district who have elementary age school children that are attend the elementary age district. It will be in a little bit of a predicament when we come back in person if there's not somewhere for their children to be. If you look at that response that we got, and I'm having a hard time doing that, so I'm going to go from memory because I just went over this with the cabinet today. But I believe there was right around 90 some people, staff members that have a elementary age child. But if you look at it, about 2/3 of those people do have a plan for their kids should we come back on September 19th. They said they have a viable plan for their children. But there was like 38 employees, and again, that's 38 employees, that's not necessarily 38 teachers. But if we, most of them we looked at, and that's my concern. If that many people are unable to come back to work and that we will have a very hard time opening our schools appropriately and delivering instruction in a modified immersion if we're missing that many people.
And the benchmark
That's
will
not
come out,
saying,
the benchmark will come out Thursday?
the new benchmark comes out this Thursday, every Thursday at 9 a.m. And,
So
President Hawkins, I did get your suggestion, and I apologize, I haven't had a chance to respond yet. If the board would desire, I am happy to make that benchmark public to everybody in our district every week when it comes out, if that's what you would want me to do. It's so easy to find and so many people have followed it, I have not done that. I keep you guys abreast, but I have not done that with the district, but I'm happy to do that if that's something the board would do that.
I think that would be helpful because I don't follow it. I do because you give it to me, but otherwise I would not.
Well,
But, going back to what we voted on and discussed, so best case scenario, if this went to green this Thursday, then we'd have to have a green the following Thursday, then we'd have to have another 2 weeks to do what we figured we could do. We'd be looking at an opening date of October, almost October.
probably either the week of the 28th or the week of the 5th, depending on what the data shows us.
Okay, so we would have to modify what,
28th is the 28th is the soonest, the 5th, if that's what the data shows.
and fall break starts on the 12th.
It does start on the 12th. And the first quarter ends on the 9th.
Okay,
Remember, our system started school 2 weeks late. Our first quarter is only 8 weeks, so it's 8 weeks and then 8 weeks for the second quarter. So we will end on the 9th, our first grading period. And that's why I wanted you as the board to see that survey, and I wanted you to see some of the comments just so you can take it in. I appreciate all the staff who took the time to respond for it.
have you had any input from the elementary district as to, are they just have a hard and fast opening date and that's it, period, regardless?
Well, I have had a couple of conversations with Joanna, and I've asked point blank, are you holding fast to the 19th, or is there a chance, as the data improves, that you might come back sooner? And I've not gotten a definitive answer. So, I don't, and that may be because she may not have had a chance. Their board meetings seem to always be a week behind us.
Right.
So I don't know that they've had a chance to discuss that as the board. I know she's looking at it, but that's all I know. I have not gotten a definitive answer that they might consider returning sooner should the data improve that. She's not giving me that.
The majority of our schools in our canal are doing,
I think you're gonna see a lot of things, President Hawkins. One thing, if you follow the data, and I can show you guys how to get to it. One thing that has happened, recently is Pinal County has always been a little bit better than Maricopa County as far as our data goes. That flip-flopped the last couple of weeks, and Maricopa, actually is looking a little better than us right now. In fact, they have 2 greens in the 100 for 100,000 cases. And I know for a fact, there are a number of Maricopa County schools that are going to go back in person on September 8th.
Are they going back?
There's a bunch of them coming out right now, starting to say they're coming back.
Are they going back in?
And I can't say that Maricopa will have met all 3 benchmarks by that date, but there are a number of districts who are starting to come forward and saying that they're going to be their date to come back.
Are they going back in a hybrid, or are they going back full on?
I don't know that. I've just paid attention to what I've read and seen. We just had an ASA meeting and nobody discussed it much. I have a Pinal County superintendent superintendent meeting tomorrow, so I'll get into that one and I'll try to do some more digging to find out what people in our county are going to do and what I can know about other districts that they're going to do. But there are a lot of other districts that are looking to go back on the 8th.
So what kind of lessons can we take and learn from the rollout of the Combs school up in Queen Creek?
Well, I think what we can learn from Combs is, when a decision is made, depending on where your staff is, and their ability to come back to their comfort level, it can make or break. But at the same time, Queen Creek Unified School District is now in their 3rd week, and you haven't heard boo in the news because it seems to be going okay. And they came back at the same time Combs was. So in one district, it was, fallout from the staff and there was an impossibility to open. The other district, I guess, I know people resigned from that district, but they moved on and moved forward and they're 3 weeks in school now.
Right in our own community here, our 2 charters, our GIA Grand Innovation, they've got a total of 850 kids, and they got 600 kids in school since, I think, early August. And then we have Legacy Elementary, who has 1,400 kids, and they started back on the 24th in hybrid. So they're both of those schools, elementary style, are moving on with that person also.
Right, and I've learned that, and I've also learned, if I remember correctly, from the it was on the news the other day, the Combs board meeting, and if I remember correctly, their board has voted to go ahead and round 2 try again on September 8th. They're going to try to come back and reopen the way they were originally going to, is my understanding. I'll confirm that tomorrow from the superintendent himself, but that's my understanding. They're going to attempt to come back on the 8th as well. Originally, I heard that Maricopa Unified and Florence Unified were both going to also try to come back on the 8th. Again, whether they're still going to do that, having the outcome. So I'll find out tomorrow which that's going to come back, or are they going to follow it?
So they were going to come back and they were going to follow the benchmarks?
I don't know if they're coming back, they're not following the benchmarks, because you can't.
Right.
If you look at this, everybody in Pinal County, if they're going to follow the benchmarks, you can't come back on the 8th because we won't have met the benchmark. But if they're not going to follow the benchmarks in their entirety, then yes, they can come back because they feel like they're close enough.
Well, the benchmarks are only guidelines, they're not mandates. They were presented as guidelines to guide us. It was up to each school to whether they wanted to make it a mandate or benchmarks or whatever. But still, all the schools in Pinal County are doing a variety of things, and there's a variety of success around the Pinal County.
Yeah. And I know Coolidge is not opening on the 8th. I think they can push back a little farther. So.
Do you know
Again, I usually get an update every Wednesday from the superintendent in that meeting, so I get an idea of where all our county districts are and what they're doing.
Well, for us to even think about opening before the end of this month, we would have to revise what we voted on last meeting.
There would have to be a modification.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
because we can't do it. For what we
Right, well, the
voted
way
on.
the vote ended last week, you couldn't go on the 14th, but, so that's why I put it on the agenda again for the second meeting, and I want to have some discussion now, answer any questions I can possibly answer for you. But, yeah, that's why I put it on the second agenda, because right now, it doesn't work the way it was presented and voted on. So you would have to come up with another, either, doesn't mean you can come up with that date, but we would have to decide not to follow benchmarks. When you follow benchmarks, then you're going to have to put, we're going to have to look at a different date. So, I also got some information, several educational town halls, and I got some information from, it was one of the town halls I went through, and they give you the numbers, and it's a way to look at the data and on your own get out front and predict what, since we're working 2 weeks in the rear, it gives you a way to predict what's coming next. And I was playing with it a little bit today, and I'm going to try to do some of it the next couple of days, because it does give you a way to look out front and get an idea of what's coming. So you're not just waiting for Thursday, but we have an idea of kind of how we're moving. So it worked pretty well to follow. They give you the actual formulas and everything how to do it.
So, and just as a question, so let's go back to the staff that potentially will have issues or concerns with elementary students or children, et cetera. It looked like there was about 20 plus that had an issue or a concern. Is that how I got, just teachers?
Yeah.
Is that?
Oh, yeah, so why I can say right now, it's just like when the whole red thread was going in districts, we're trying to contemplate at what point in time they might have to shut their schools because it wasn't safe to open because you didn't have enough staff. Right now, we have, you guys can see on the agenda tonight, we have, roughly 50 substitutes for our school district. However, because of the format in which we're learning right now and it's online, you can't sub in our district unless you come in for a formal training in technology, and we can help you do that. Otherwise, you can't. It's not like just walking into a classroom and picking up a set of plans and running. So, right now, and Mary Ann is going to be in the second meeting to confirm that, but I think we have 12 or 15 total substitutes that are trained up and could potentially step in to a classroom should we need them. Now, some of them are saying they're not comfortable or are going to go back to a second round of training. They're going to do a second round of training before that happens. But if let's just say that 38 is all, let's just say it's all people. If 14, 15 of them decided that they couldn't, and they decided to go on FMLA or whatever else, that they couldn't do that, we would be in a world of hurt trying to open our schools and effectively deliver instruction the way we planned. So we would be in a real world of hurt trying to effectively do it. We couldn't cover all of the people who would be out effectively and do that long.
We ended up, with about 60% or 40% of our students, though, that ended up choosing online only?
Yeah, we're about 40, 40% online, 60% modified. So a lot more online, a lot more went online than we anticipated. I would think we're going to be around 20, 25%. So, but there's still a lot of parents concerned for having their kids back on campus.
So if we went modified, what kind of a difference would that make in the amount of teachers that we would need, I guess?
Well, we need them all.
You still have to have the
Yeah,
teachers.
you better, yeah.
You gotta change that.
The reason we modified is you would have smaller class sizes. If I don't have enough teachers and we start trying to combine kids,
Right.
we just defeated the whole modified in person.
Right.
We talked about it, we would have full kids. So it's almost like I said, we need all of our staff to be back for this to pull this off. Now we're going to have people get sick and all that, and to have 10 substitutes on a high school campus on a Friday is uncommon. But this is a different learning environment that we're in there. So that's been my whole concern all along, is the predicament that we are in as a district because of decisions made by the elementary district and the impact to our employees who have elementary age children and don't have a viable plan for their own children in the open. That's the one factor that I don't have the answer for on how to get around.
I guess, Steve, one of the questions with that is, they still don't have an answer, those parents that are affected by that, they still don't have an answer from the elementary school as what's gonna occur after fall break. Or what's gonna
No, they
happen
don't.
with those kids.
Yeah,
et
the
cetera. I mean,
elementary-
those kids
why
are
would I
still
tell the
left in
elementary school
limbo.
does not come out with a full-blown plan for what to expect on October 19th. They just said they would come back. That's, all they said is that the students they would come back. They haven't said you won't. And I'm hoping more will come from their next board meeting, which I believe is 1 week from tonight.
Next question is, one of the other questions is, and potential date was September 14th. How many actual days of teaching, if you don't come back on the 14th and you come back, say, after fall break, how many actual days, because you're gonna have a week of fall break in there somewhere, how many actual days are kids gonna be in the hybrid model? You're looking like 10 or 15?
If we came back on the 14th?
Yeah.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes, exactly.
Would it come back on the 14th now?
Exactly.
Okay, well, the week of the 14th, we would only have 4, because the 18th is full day of professional development for our staff, for kids who don't have school. 5, the week of the 21st, so, yeah, 15, 5, 10, 15, we'd have about 19 days. 19 school days. If we were on the 14th, we'd have 19 school days, the 18th is a full day of professional development.
Okay. That answers that.
Yeah. And again, this is just the time for us to discuss this and for me to answer any questions you might have. You can't make any motions or do anything until we're in the regular meeting, and the next agenda. So I just wanted to make sure I could clarify any questions you might have on the survey, any questions you might have on the benchmark data. It's going to lead into the discussion you're going to have in the next meeting.
Okay, one of the questions that's related to this was, how are we as far as, there were some concerns just in the delivery process, et cetera. How are we as far as PPE, for all masks, gloves, et cetera, et cetera? Tim's here, and I just was, when I kind of,
Yeah.
there were some delivery issues that we were kind of behind as far as, having enough. There were things in the pipeline that hadn't made it here yet, as far as some of the cleaning, equipment, et cetera, that we were about half supply of what was supposed to be here. And then there's also concern about gloves and PPEs, et cetera, having sufficient, if they were still in the pipeline.
Yeah. Yeah, and we've got stuff ordered, the face shields for all faculty members have been ordered and have come in.
They have come in.
We've got, but we also are getting ready to place an order for all of the PPE and stuff through our ESSA grant. In fact, I met with the cabinet today and I asked Marilyn Gardner, she's going to give me a copy of everything that we're getting ready to order and place so that I can share it with you, hopefully share it with you guys this week in my board report, just so you get an idea of the things that we are ordering for that. As far as being ready to open and having enough stuff, I believe we've got enough masks, we've got face shields. One of the biggest deals was gloves, and teachers who may want gloves. That's a big deal, and I know that we were placing that order. I don't know that it is. We've gotten them in yet. I will have to double check. That was the one thing. As far as the chemicals go and the cleaning stuff, I would have to defer to Tim on that one. He would have a little more information than I on where we are in the pipeline with that.
Okay. That was just kind of, I think every school and his brother is probably trying to load up with the same list of things that.
Oh, yeah, no, the whole country, because now, because right after Labor Day, the East Coast, West Coast, everybody's going back. The whole country's gonna be trying to get their hands on the same thing. So,
Any other comments or questions?
I think, obviously, I don't think it's a question that we would all like to have. The hybrid model is the only model that functionally work, for the district in the near term until some kind of, plan, until you can see an actual increase and hope that something doesn't happen in the fall. To create, another pop in this thing, et cetera, especially when you're starting to see all the colleges are going back in place and you're seeing thousands of kids that are testing positive and we just don't have any aspect of knowing what their work people are and what they're doing on the outside, et cetera. And obviously everybody wants to have kids back in the classroom in a functional social setting to get the best education that they possibly can.
so, anything else I can answer for you guys before I'm looking at the time? Want to make sure you have a few minutes to take a break before the next meeting.
I think that's it.
Anything else I can answer for you?
I think that's all. Thank you.
Thank you.
You are welcome.
I'll move to adjourn.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
All right. Mary,
Going to go ahead and call this meeting to order. Roll call.
Mr. Wright,
Here.
Mr. Lopez,
Here.
Mr. Hennis,
Here.
and Ms. Hawkins.
Here. Please join me, stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a moment of silence. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Please be seated. Number 2A. Move to approve and adopt the agenda.
I move
The
to,
first
move to adopt the agenda.
I'll second that.
discussion.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis,
Yes.
and Ms. Hawkins.
Yes. Item 2B, minutes from prior meetings. Move to approve the minutes of August 4th and 13th, 2020 as presented.
I'll move to approve minutes of August 4th and August 3rd, especially minutes of August 13th also. Please.
Second.
Discussion.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis,
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins.
Yes. 3A, recognition, student of the month. CTE student of the month being presented by Mr. Sykes, followed by the Rotary students, and I guess Principal Matt and Cole, you'll be doing those.
Brianna, would you join me, please? President Hawkins, board members, I'm honored this evening to recognize Brianna Boyle as September's Career and Technical Education Student of the Month. Brianna was nominated by her agriculture teacher, Mr. Casey Farnsworth at Cascade Union High School. Mr. Farnsworth stated, Brianna is a sophomore and an exceptional student, a great example to her peers and all she comes in contact with. She has achieved so much over the last year in the agriculture FFA program. She has been active in multiple hands-on learning projects, such as her involvement in her family's dairy operation, our agriculture program's poultry production enterprise, and her love for equine, which has developed her passion for competing in high school rodeo. Brianna served as the Green Hand FFA officer last year and is currently serving as the FFA chapter 7. She has a fun and outgoing personality and is always looking to lend a hand where a hand is needed and is always willing to go above and beyond to grow as a leader. She can always be counted on to get the job done. Brianna's parents are here with us this evening, Keith Boyle and Misty Wells. And Brianna, congratulations.
Nice job, baby. Congratulations.
Principal Cole.
Good evening, Madam President, members of the board. Tonight, I would like to recognize Evan Chaparro as the Rotary Student of the Month. He is the son of Tammy and Alex Chaparro here in the audience. Their baby boy, this will be their last senior, I believe. Evan has been active in Vista Grande since, I think, before he came there. I remember seeing him in school as an 8th grader. He is a member of student council and has been president of his class, I believe, for 3 years. And we haven't had a chance to elect officers yet this year, but I'm pretty sure he'll be involved. He was Key Club president for 1 year. Robotics, Math League, he's in AP Math Club, AP Stats Club, National Honor Society, and he has, currently has a 4.740 GPA. He is number 1 in the senior class, and he's been ranked academically all 4 years, of course. And the list, some of his personal achievements, he's been involved in the Casper Youth Commission here in town. U of A Keys intern and ASUC intern. Where did you do the science? Was that at U of A?
Both of them.
At both of them, okay.
Probably did better at ASU though.
You are a bright young man. It was easier at ASU.
He would like to attend USC, University of Southern California, and major in chemical engineering, and he hopes to use his career to help solve some of the problems we face today. He'd like to make a name for himself, both in his career and in his life. Evan Shapiro.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Never. I wasn't club soccer.
Madam Chair, governing board members, it's a pleasure to be in front of you today, especially with this young man. This is Ernie Razzo. He's here with his parents, Magdalena and Ernesto Razzo. Appreciate them coming today to support their son. His list of achievements are just incredible, almost made me cry as I went through all of it. I already knew him as an exceptional young man from last year, but his list goes quite long. AP and honor student, 2-year SciTech presenter, 4-year Pride of Casa Grande marching band member, 2-year indoor percussion ensemble member, 3 years elite dance company as a band wasn't enough. Member of National Honor Society, drum major for this year, 2021, as well as elite dance company captain. Has participated in the Macy Thanksgiving Day Parade participant in 2018. He also Beta Honor Society officer and student council officer multiple years. Some of his personal activities and accomplishments include 3 members of Upward Bound at CAC, getting to live what he calls his all-time #1 dream of traveling to New York City, which, by the way, is where he hopes to live and reside in the future. Getting to participate in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, and also getting on the Today Show. He's received 7 Mindset scholarships to Atlanta, Georgia, which was for the Ultimate Life Leadership Summit. He's produced music. He loves practicing piano as well as many other instruments. He's a songwriter and arranges his own music, designs digital art, and I love this one. Proud to be a part of his family and his friends' lives. I don't think anybody could say something more important than that. One of the fun things he likes to experiment in the kitchen. I'm not quite sure what the experiments are, but they're good. And practicing self-care and a healthy mentality, which right now we know is extremely important. His life and career goals include being an advocate and voice for his community. And some of the possible majors he's got a lot of interest include music performance, performing, philosophy, psychology, political sciences, and social justices. His dreams, aside from living in New York City, is performing at the Grammys, writing a screenplay for a film, recording multiple records in the studio, becoming an important societal figure by using his voice to inspire, and I love to encourage others. getting to travel the world with family and friends. And special note, you can tell how important his family is. He asked that we take a special moment to thank his Nana, is it Monkey? Mate, for everything she's done for him. She helped inspire and shape him into who he believes he is today, and he will love and miss her very much. Fine young man presented today.
Okay, next will be the Employee of the Month recognition, and it looks like Mary's going to be presenting that.
Welcome. Sorry. Concentrating on the flexor. So, the committee all got together this month to start back the Employee of the Month. And so these are our first ones for the 2021 school year. Our very first employee that we are going to honor in memoriam is Kevin Boyd, our assistant principal. Our next employee is Alistair Mounts. Janine Lurie. I was told to let you pick up your own plaque, so. I don't know plaque. You? Thank you. Leslie Vasquez. Elias Gomez.
Congratulations.
Sandy McIntyre. Charmaine Martinez. Sheila Rodriguez. Julie Parks Evans.
Well, thank you, and congratulations to everybody. Item 4, there is none, so we will move on to reports and presentations, and the superintendent's report. Dr. Beebe.
President Hopkins, members of the governing board, it's always my privilege to be able to brag a little bit about our district. And let me just take a moment, since I could not be there in person, and I do apologize, to formally congratulate the employees of the month myself. Thank you for all the hard work you do for our district. Just, you know, honor with that. So, thank you. For starters, I wanted to say a big thank you. You are all there together in our boardroom tonight. I want to say thank you to the inmates, their facility crew that worked really over the past 3 months to get our new boardroom ready. That will allow us to be able to have our meetings once again. And I'd like to formally thank the people for their efforts, because these gentlemen, I told them today, I'm going to miss you because they become a regular part of our society. But special thank you to Ralph Cullen, Jaime Rodriguez, Ivan Mendoza, Efren Duvara, Angel Salinas, Anthony Lee, Jay Kite, and Robert Rosa. Because we are blessed to have so many talented people who work in our district, we're able to do most of the work in the district office completely in-house and save a ton of money and what it might have cost to have the facility that you are in today. So just thank you to them and for all their efforts. Greatly appreciated. I'd also like to say thank you to our faculty and staff who took the time to fill out our survey that we sent out and gauge where we are regarding reopening our schools. as we continue to read and to examine when it's safe to return on campus. I hope the board found this information useful in helping you to make those decisions that we need to make. But of our employees, we had 303 responses. So thank you to everyone who took the time to share with us your feelings, your thoughts, and feelings.
Thank you.
I also want to say thank you. I think as we get ready and get into the start of the school year, I would be remiss to say thank you to our faculty and staff who have worked tirelessly this summer to ensure that we've got the 2020-21 school year off and running for our students. Our staff is amazing. The effort, collaboration, the work that they continue to do to make sure our kids are getting educated this year. I couldn't be prouder to be part of them, and I just want to say a special thank you to all of them for all the work that they do. With that being said, I also would be remiss to not thank the district director and our school leadership team. They're one of the best team players I can ever be a part of, and always being willing to collaborate and solve the trials and tribulations that we've encountered since March of last year when our schools were closed. So, a great team that I have to work with, and oftentimes if I just get out of the way, it's amazing the things that they do and the suggestions they have for our district. So thank you to all of you for all that you've done. I want to say a big congratulations tonight to Casey Farnsworth and the Cascade Union FFA chapter who just received the following award. There were four groups that won. The gold chapter received 3-star rating, so for Cascade Union, and also Cascade Union is now a national finalist in strengthening agriculture division of the national chapter program. So again, congratulations to Mr. Farnsworth and his students. Now, we just talked about the employees month, but also at the beginning of September, we've also resumed our student success recognition, and would like to formally congratulate our Brent Prize winner, Donna Taylor from Castle Grand, Deborah Spencer also from Castle Grand, and Cleope Ryan from Castle Grand were our winners for that. Again, one last time, I'd like to just congratulate all of our employees of the month. And I would like to say a big thank you. The Big House Cafe has once again agreed to be our partner for our Employees of the Month sponsor, and I will get to host the Employees of the Month breakfast on Wednesday, September 9th. They are giving us the Big House. They're allowing us to practice distancing, but at the same time, be able to honor our employees with breakfast. So I'm very appreciative of that partnership and all that is intended. So with that being said, that concludes my report.
Thank you. And on the 6A, as the policy advisories, move to approve the second reading and adoption of the ASPA policy revisions, IHA, Basic Instructional Program, KB, Parent Involvement and Education, and the addition of regulations, GBGBR, Staff Personnel Security and Safety, JJCA, FRB, Student Dress, New, and KB or KI-RB, Visitors to Schools, New.
I'll move to approve the second reading of those, of the ASD policy advisories.
One second.
Discussion?
Just the point, as we read these are pointing out specifically a lot of things associated with COVID about masks and requiring this indoor and outdoor, and anything when you're on the district campuses or any activity in a vehicle or any kind of activity that you're associated outdoor, indoor, or anytime you're on the district campuses is part of the things in these. That was my only question.
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
And Ms. Hawkins?
Yes. 6B, intergovernmental agreement, move to approve the 2021 dual enrollment intergovernmental agreement with CAC as presented.
So moved.
Second. Discussion?
Mr. Wright?
Yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
And Ms. Hawkins?
Yes. Item 6C, move to approve the intergovernmental agreement as aquatic park.
I move.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
This is so that we can have swim team, et cetera, is this where, and then we're responsible for all practices as far as cleaning and COVID and et cetera, and as far as the usage of that. Of that, how we read in the agreement, is it $25 an hour for our usage?
Yeah.
Okay.
On to the vote.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis,
Yes.
and Ms. Hawkins.
Yes. 6D, move to approve the district's participation in the State Seal of Art Proficiency Program as presented.
So move.
I'll second.
Discussion?
Dr. Beatty, is this a new program or is this continuing?
No, this is a new program, it's been brought to us, it's an opportunity for our kids, to get some recognition, and, Martin Hebda was the one that approached, me and Melanie about it, and it's an outstanding program, so looking forward to just another opportunity for our kids to grow and become.
Awesome.
Great move for the art program.
Mr. Wright,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Mr. Hennis,
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins.
Yes. Okay, 6E, consideration of a new reopening date or protocol to begin modified in-person instruction. Obviously, with the benchmarks and what we voted on at the last meeting, we have not met what we had discussed, so we were hoping to be able to open by September 14th, but since we did not meet the requirements that we gave ourselves in the district, we can't. So if we're going to keep up with the benchmarks that we established, it looks like our soonest reopening date could possibly be the very end of September. And anybody have any discussion with that?
What's the nearest Monday to the end of September?
Well, that I don't know.
The end of September, the 28th is the last Monday of
The
September.
28th?
So that's 2 weeks after the 14th.
And that would be if we've met the benchmarks for 2 weeks, starting, well, no, because if we met the benchmarks, we haven't met any of the 3 benchmarks for 2 weeks in a row, so that if we met on Thursday and then the following Thursday, you say the 28th would be the first day we could reopen?
Dr. Beatty, now Dr. Beatty, we've met the one benchmark you've met now for, we don't have that, on the, do you have the ability to put that up, Dave?
Dave, yes, Dave, if you wouldn't mind, if you could put the, that benchmark data up again, for everybody in the audience.
It's on the summary page right now.
Yeah.
Does Joe have access to this?
We can certainly email it directly to him.
Mr. Lopez, do you have the benchmarks in front of you?
I'm sorry, do I have the what?
The benchmarks from the Arizona Department of Health Services.
For reopening school, Joe, the 3 benchmarks that we're supposed to meet?
I don't. I just remember the last benchmarks report that I got, 2 out of the 3 had been met, the last one had not. And Gwinnett County was the only school district that had not met the 3rd benchmark. That's all I have. I don't have an upgraded one yet. I don't remember when that last one was supposed to come out.
And I sent it, Governor Gordon, I sent that to all of you on Friday when I sent my board report.
Right.
But we can get a copy. If we want, you might want to, member Lopez, we can certainly review what the data shows, just so you know. But if you look at the bottom benchmark, the COVID-like illness, that is 2 greens right now, and we have been, in Manhattan County, we've been pretty good with that one for, probably about a month now. That one has been, we've met. The percent positivity is the next one up. If you look at the percent positivity on August the 9th, we actually dropped to 5.9%. That's the first percent positive week we've had. This was below 7. And remember, we need to get to 7 or below to be able to do the modified in person. But the week prior to that was like 9.8, and so it is red. So we still need another week of that one below 7. But then where we flip back, we had recently come close to meeting the number of cases, the 100 or 100,000 cases. We did have a couple of weeks ago, we had a red and green. But the last 2 weeks are red. And so that's definitely the benchmark that has kind of given us a setback. And there has been over the weekend, there was another large number of cases in Pinal County down in the Florence area that were at. So that's where we are right now with that data. It comes out, the new data comes out every single Thursday at 9 a.m. So we'll get new data this week. We could potentially still be 2 green for the COVID-like illness. We could potentially have 2 consecutive weeks of below 7 in the percent positivity, but we cannot have 2 weeks of green in the number of cases because we're going to have at least 1 week of red even if we get green this week.
To reopen on the 14th, is that what you're saying?
Correct, to reopen on the 14th. So we would have needed to have at least 1 week of green in the number of cases. And again, what was discussed at the last board meeting is that we as a school district need that 10-day, almost 2-week turnaround once we have hit the benchmark to be ready to get everybody on board and ready to open our schools and have buses running and food service ready for meals and all that.
Okay, one of the other things associated with this benchmark, et cetera, is, and Joe wasn't not able to be privy to the conversation about the survey you did amongst teachers and overlaps and concerns also about just the staff and where they're at this point as far as reopening, et cetera, and where are they at this point?
Correct. Right. So if you look at the staff survey, just to kind of review the staff survey again, if you look at the first, again, looking at the first question of people being comfortable being back on campus on the 14th, we had, of the 303 responses, our number was 3.9. I was reminded briefly after the last meeting from our staff people that is 60%. So roughly 60% of our staff is comfortable being back on campus as of the 14th. The other one we asked was, of our staff, as you've noticed, is how many staff members have an elementary age child of their own. And again, we don't want to say that that's just Catherine Elementary, because we have staff members whose kids go to other school districts besides Catherine Elementary as well, but are at home right now because their schools are not, the schools are not open. If you look at that, and I'm sorry, I don't have a copy in front of me, but I remember that number was just under 100, like 98 of our teachers, or not the teachers, staff in general, who had kids. Then we wanted to find out, number one, of those people who do have kids, if they had a viable plan, an alternative for their child and their child's education, should we return on the 14th. Of that group that does have a child, there was about 2/3 of them that did, but we had 38 staff members who do not have a viable plan for their children when and if we reopen. And so that's the concern that I've had for a while, with that number. And then you were able to read the comments that were made. I was able to read the comments that were made from the different staff members. And I do, since there's a lot of people watching online, I do also want to thank people who gave us their honest, open feedback. There's some great comments that we were able to use and learn from.
Yeah, Dr. Beatty, I appreciate you doing that survey for the staff and all, and I'm empathetic. I'm empathetic about the concerns of the staff, but I'm also have some empathy for our families in the community who are facing the same problems that the staff is, and having to stay at home with their children and having to teach their kids, try to monitor their kids while their kids are being taught online. It's, from the people I'm talking to, it's pretty brutal out there. These families who are trying to do this. It's very disruptive on their job parts. They certainly outnumber the level of our staff members and the trouble that they're going through. I know back in June, we made a promise as a board, to offer a choice to our families as far as school choice and options for hybrid and online. And I think we meant that, but I think by kicking the can down the road on some of this, that we're failing these parents in the community that are having to suffer. We're all suffering. We got to figure out some way to get past it. There's sacrifices on all members of our community, including our staff and our parents of our students. So I hope this board can figure out a way to move past the box we put ourselves in by holding ourselves to the metrics and move out a little bit and possibly be a little flexible in our reopening plans and get this thing open. There's lots of examples. There are lots of schools that are trying to make this work, and they're putting in the protocol that has been handed down by ADHS. In our own school, I must applaud our facilities management team and our staff for putting together all of our protocols. I made a tour of Vista Grande last week, and I had Mr. Mace and Mr. Dandy give me a detailed tour of what we're doing on campus as far as the protocol. I am very satisfied with how the classrooms are set up, about student management as they get out and going between classes, and they're going down the hallways. They've got the hallways divided to keep the kids safe. They have the bathroom set where they can sanitize them after every period. They have the cafeterias set up for social distancing. We're ready. We have done a lot of work. We are ready to get these kids back in school and get these parents some relief in our community. And I hope this board tonight can figure out a way to move forward in that direction.
And I appreciate everything you've said, and I really appreciate, because when they gave their presentations this summer, it's obvious that this staff has really worked to make this campus as safe as it could be in any way. We face a dilemma, though, that other districts are not facing, in that their elementary schools are on the same schedule as they are because they're unified districts. We are not. So our elementary district is on a different schedule and a different timeline than we are. So it has presented an additional burden on us because we voted prior to their vote to go ahead and open in modified. And then that changed everything to some great extent after our vote, because there obviously it's a desire for everybody to get the kids back in school as much as possible. And then we ended up with the survey showing that 40% went online anyway. And the other situation that we're facing too is we set our guidelines, so if we're going to follow what we set for our guidelines, we would have to change what our guidelines are. But we're now looking at the end of September before we could open up. And then we're looking at fall break on October 12th, right after that. So with the elementary district being the way it is, and we're talking, what, 7, 10 days or something max, maybe 8 days, I don't know. Between the 12th and the,
Between the 28th and
Between the 28th
yeah.
and the fall break.
you know, I don't know. I do feel that we have to set a firm date so people know when to come back. So, I mean, if it was October 19th to be in line with the elementary district, I think we need to open regardless of just, you know, unless something were to turn
Just
drastically
for
longer.
clarification, when we reopen, we are reopening in a hybrid model.
Yes,
Yeah, just so that nobody gets confused.
Right.
That you're suddenly just throwing the doors open and letting people come. It's the 60% that have asked to come and do it in a hybrid model.
and, you know, we're the only larger district that has the elementary on one, and so it helps them because everybody's on the same schedule where we are not. And I agree, because, I mean, you know, it puts a burden on working families that what to do with their kids during the day. It puts a burden on everybody, and it puts a burden on the students. It puts a burden on our system, our district here. There is no good solution.
No.
But I think if we are going to follow the benchmarks at all, then I think, you know, we're looking towards the end of the month. But I do think we need to set a firm date and it not be any later than October 19th, regardless. And then if the elementary district would reconsider and realign and everybody has met their benchmarks, I would be for opening up. But we're getting so late into the month, and then we're turning around with fall break. Not being an educator, not being
Well, part of what Dr. Beebe has mentioned also is that once we hit whatever the date or within that time frame, check, be okay? Okay. That we essentially needed 2 weeks. That once we set a date that you need 2 weeks to be able to prepare food, busing, have everything, classrooms, et cetera, they're ready, close to being, but to be 100% pristine and ready for students. You need essentially 2 weeks once we set a firm date. Is that correct? I see lots of heads nodding. I'm taking that as a yes.
Joe, did you have
That was correct.
you have any input? Can you hear us, Joe? Mr.
Yeah,
Gilbert?
I just want to, let me know when it's something I can say my few words if I can.
You're on.
Okay, Dr. Beebe, I want to go back to what you stated earlier. When we met with the board here a month or two ago, and what happened was the elementary school district decided to extend till fall break. I believe it was the 19th of October. There's so much divisiveness going on right now. One side wants to do this, the other side does that. The AFB school board president, or the association president of Combs High School decided to resign because he felt that it wasn't safe to come back and we were putting teachers in jeopardy. And after hearing tonight's report about how well our school is doing to make sure our schools are clean, the bathrooms, the effort that the staff has done, the cleaning staff to make sure that we be safe, you know, I have to come back to the point that it's still going to be a problem with these parents, with these kids, that they're going to make the decision to either come on board or they're going to quit. And they're going to say, I resign because my kids' safety, I don't even have to take care of them, this, that, and the other. So I'm just at a point right now where my feeling personally is that we probably need to wait until the 19th when the elementary school district is back on board. I think at that time we'll have the extra week of fall break for all this to clear up in terms of the numbers and the metrics. But here again, like Chuck said, we're just kicking the can down the road. At some point, we got to come reasons, safety or whatever the reasons is, I say we set a firm date. I'm in favor of going with the 19th. That's what I'm in.
After fall break, coming back on October 19th,
Yes,
is that correct?
yes, that's correct.
And that is, we're still basing this, since things seem to be trending in the right direction, that you would just affirm that, hopefully that we are, trending and that everything is in a safe fashion at that point to come back to school?
Yes.
So are we going to, I mean, we'll have to present a motion. So are we going to present a motion saying that we have to have 2 consecutive weeks of everything being in green still, or? Joe?
You know, I'm gonna say one more thing.
Okay.
If it wasn't for the issue of the elementary school district deciding to wait until fall break, I would have these kids come back on the 14th on the hybrid model, and the ones that don't want to come and join us to get back on board with the online teaching. That's where I would stand. But because of what's happened with the elementary school, I have to say that I would say yes. If you can meet those benchmarks 2 weeks before the 19th, or even by the beginning of October, to just go with that. And that's just where I'm at.
Yeah, I think the 2 weeks is obviously a very important aspect. I think the key thing is that we hit green. And I would hope that we hit green. These are the recommendations that have been taken. And that's following something of the science as opposed to, we definitely need to get kids back, and staff and students back on school, on grounds, and doing, having the ability to have the social and the direct contact available. And I know that all of the staff is working to the nth degree to make sure everything is safe and 100% ready and prepared to go. So, whether the elementary school was fall break or not, I still think we're personally that the 14th was the initial date. We have not met that criteria right now at this point. And that if we can, I guess your next choice is to go, like you're mentioning, till October 19th, is into the fall break.
And Dr. Beatty mentioned something earlier, that there is a way, because our data is in arrears, that maybe we can get more updated data, so maybe it would help us in the future to, there's some readings in advance. But I do think we need to set a firm date and make it October 19th, with or without the elementary school. I mean, the staff has done their work here to make it safe for us. I think people need to have a plan and need to be able to go forward. So would anybody like to make a motion? Or do you have some more discussion, Joe?
I have one more discussion here. We have a report coming out on Thursday. Is that correct? It's going to give us some updated data.
Yes.
If that data shows green all the way across the board, then I would say we should meet probably early next week and then make that motion to go ahead and get a firm date started. Would that give us the 2 weeks that we need if we get a green light on Thursday?
No.
No.
That's 1 week. That'd be your first week.
We went to double red in that one.
So, Member Lopez, you would have to look at the data on the 10th of September to be able to have 2 weeks. And that's pending the third comes back great.
Did you hear him?
No.
He said the earliest you could look at the data would be on the 10th for the first one, or for the 2?
For the second week, you'll have this Thursday, and then the 10th would be 2 consecutive weeks as far as potentially having 2 weeks of green. And then being able to go right after, then you could do 2 weeks after that. So that would put you on,
And that's what we said, the 24th of September.
That would have you opening about the 28th.
Okay,
And that would give you that time. So that would be, I mean, I think the hope and prayer is that you get this thing down and can do that.
okay, but saying that, if you decide that everything's green on the 10th, we go forward with the 28th, as President Hawkins said, that still only gives us like 12 days before fall break. So we'll get back in for 2 weeks and then tell them to go home and I don't see the cohesion there that's gonna occur.
I guess the question I have is at least they've got in, and you've been able to establish protocols, and you've been able to get people at least ready to kind of understand what's going to be required for them, et cetera, would be the only question that I have as far as, we'd like to get them back in school, whether it's, waiting until after fall break, or that would be the, potentially the soonest that you could, have them, that it would, it would at least give you a dry run before you had a week to kind of recover yourself maybe, and then go back at it full on after fall break. I'm just thinking potentially of staff, et cetera, that you can, whatever hiccups, whatever concerns, whatever issues, you've got a handful of days to kind of get it worked out. The students can get it figured out what's required. Because I did the same tour check over at Vista Grande, and I definitely still have concerns over the hallways and passing. And I know that there's arrows pointing in directions, but I've been to Safeway too, and there's arrows. And I've yet to find a person who understands what you can sit there and stare at that arrow and point at it as they're passing you in the same direction. So, and there's going to be the enforcement associated with it, because there's going to be a ramping up. And then the other thing is about kids understanding about masks and social distancing and stuff like that. If you can come back on the 28th, that gives you a chance to understand what the rules are and what new life is going to be, would be the only thing I would mention, as opposed to waiting until after fall break. At least you get a bite of the apple.
Okay.
Yes, and member Kenneth, thank you. Yeah, that makes sense. If we get the green light on the 10th and we start on the 28th, I'm all for that. That's fine, because like you said, that's gonna give time to work on the kinks, whatever issues come up, you'll have to wait after fall break, or excuse me, during fall break, to work on those issues. But yeah, I'm in favor of that.
Yes, Marianne.
There do not have childcare because their children attend elementary that won't be in school. We do not have 38 long-term subs that can come in and take that position.
Marianne, we mentioned that, we talked about that earlier also, because the concern about this, we don't know what the elementary school is going to do after fall break. We still don't know if they're opening at this point. So that issue could still be an issue after fall break. If they decide that they're going to extend, because things aren't in the right fashion, you might just be running into the exact same thing again for the second semester.
Well, as long as you understand, we may have the same headlines as jail comes, and that's that we do not have enough staff to open. As long as that's an understanding by this board, we will, I appreciate that.
It's just, at some point, I think Chuck mentioned it, at some point you have to open. And if you get if we've met all the criteria that the AHDS has come up with, the county's come up with, and we're meeting the numbers, then I'm assuming, like Chuck has mentioned, that there's parents that are going to want kids back in school in whatever fashion it happens to be. And the hybrid is you only have a portion, and we agree 100% on understanding that there's 38 people that have a conflict potentially with what's going to happen with elementary school.
And we can't double up classes.
No, we understand that. I guess the question I have is, what happens if we wait until after fall break and elementary school is still waiting?
I'm agreeing with you. We're in the same boat. We're in the same situation. I agree with you. But we also cannot open classrooms with no teachers. I just want you guys to have that information. It's still your vote, your idea, your suggestion, but
Just
I
as
guess-
long as you understand all the facts.
I guess one of the questions at that point, maybe, since I think Dr. Beebe's already mentioned it as one of the ideas of the district, maybe there's more of a chance for the district to flesh out what could be done, because there was an option on one of the survey about what if the district provided a space, childcare space for kids to come in on the campuses, et cetera. Then maybe after folks have a little bit of a chance to kind of, if there's actual, a date coming forward, that if they have a chance to kind of review that, then maybe the district has a chance to kind of flesh that out with staff and teachers as far as how that may or may not look. Because if I read correctly in that survey, there were some folks that have already found what they're going to do, childcare, assistance, or whatever they're gonna do with their children during that daytime. It's the 38 that are still looking for a, it was about 20 teachers, about 18 staff, is that correct?
Pretty close to that.
Yeah, yeah.
And we have put it in the grant, and we're looking at hiring additional people on a temporary basis to help offset some of those, yes.
So you have 20 teachers and then 18 support staff, correct?
Yes.
So the actual, subs, teacher subs, et cetera, our pool right now is, Dr. Beebe was talking about earlier, is somewhere around 18 to 20, 12, and then you're trying to train
We have
more
8
folks
more
up.
being trained tomorrow, but I can tell you that, there's only 3 that are even interested in taking anything that's longer than a day at a time. You gotta know that. But we are looking at an alternative to do some kind of care in the facilities for our staff for this year.
And then it gets quiet.
So do we want to stick with the benchmarks and measure it that way? On a reopening date?
President Hopkins,
Yes.
members of the board, again, is the short decision to make. As a superintendent, and I think for the sake of everyone, I would hope that we could finally make the motion and land on, and I've heard it said a couple of times this is the day that we're going to reopen it and quit having the moving target. When the target moves, it's not good for anybody. It just keeps everybody kind of on edge, wondering what's going on, what's going ready. Our staff does a tremendous job keeping online, but it would be nice, and not to be going back to our staff, they would extend another 2 weeks, and then another 2 weeks, and then another 2 weeks. To have a firm that this is when we're real. So that's just my 2 cents.
Yeah, I agree with that also, and it looks like, potentially you're headed in with everything that we've been seeing over the past month, as long as Arizona doesn't do anything stupid over Labor Day. I think, the last pictures of our governor, the health lady was in front wearing her mask, and he was standing behind telling people and spending $3 million to telling you should wear a mask, but not wear a mask. So.
So if we're going to set a firm date, the October 19th can be a firm date, although I'd like to have it sooner, but we can't set a firm date prior to that because we're going strictly off the benchmarks.
You change your motion.
Well, we haven't made one yet. We need to,
You're just
we're
having a
obviously,
discussion right now.
yeah. So we're just discussing, but we need to. But then I do think at some point, regardless of what the elementary district does, we have to go forward also.
Right.
And I would say October 19th at the very latest. That's my opinion. Regardless of what they do, and then we just improvise to the very best that we can with what we have. But, it's if we meet the benchmarks for the next 2 weeks, then we can open up. But if we don't meet them next week, then we're opening up October 5th or something. And then we're going to fall break on the 12th. So we need to make a decision like you say, a firm decision one way or the other, yes.
Member Hopkins just President Hopkins just has a suggestion. Could you as a board pick a date as a firm reopening? But if we met the benchmark sooner, potentially come back sooner?
I don't think anybody would object to that.
What was the suggestion again?
Make a firm opening date of, let's say, October 19th, but if we met the benchmarks prior to that, then to go ahead and open up sooner, but no later than.
I don't think it's gonna work.
Why?
Then you just have parents floating and trying to
Too
come
much flexibility in that, inflexibility.
Well, we have to either not follow the benchmarks and pick a date. Or, Joe?
Madam President,
You're on.
my feeling is this, and I'm being swayed by some of the arguments that Mr. Henderson made. If we meet the benchmarks for the 2-week period by the 10th, I say we start the 28th as the firm date. If those benchmarks haven't been met, then I think at that point you're gonna have to discuss it again. But right now, I think it's important, as most of the members have stated, that we need to get these kids back into the classroom. The facilities department has already made every effort to make sure that the place is set up safe and clean. So that's my final analysis this week. That if the 10th says that we're good for 2 weeks, we start on the 28th. That way we've got the 14 days before the break to flush out all the problems that are going on, all the questions, the bus issues, whatever the issues that come up. Then you've got the fall break to make some corrections and get back on board the following week. That's my 2 cents.
I think we're painting ourselves in the corner with benchmarks because Canal County is so affected by the prison levels that are being reported in Eloy and Coolidge. I don't know if they're mostly, but they have such an impact on the first 2 metrics of the reports, and that's really drawing us down. I think we need to be a little bit more flexible here and move out. Our employees are gonna adjust to whatever decision we make. And they're going to figure out a way to do it if it's important to them. Our greater good is to the larger population of our students and our families. We're taking care of our employees as best we can, but they are employees, and whatever decisions we're gonna make, they're going to try to find a way to adjust.
Well, we have some options here, and that is to do away with the benchmarks and open up on September 14th. Or we could set for the 28th with the benchmarks, if we make the benchmarks. But then at that time, if we're just like maybe making 2 or 3 or something, maybe we can reassess using the benchmarks. If we can't make the 28th schedule, but if we don't make the 28th schedule, there's no reason that I can see to try to reschedule anything before October 19th. I'm fine with trying to open up on the 28th and meeting the benchmarks, but then I think after that, we have to reassess our benchmarks and then pick a firm date. And October 19th is the one that coincides. Like I said, we're the only district. Unfortunately, it isn't lining up with the elementary district. So I don't know.
Well, I mentioned before, where does Legacy and Vandy Innovation stand? They're not districts, they're charter schools, but they're dealing with our kids, they're dealing with 2,200 of our kids in our community that are back in school. And their parents are facing the same kind of issues as the parents of Castaneda Elementary and the parents of Castaneda Union High School. I don't know the metrics of Mission Heights and what they're doing, but they certainly have an impact too. But we're boxing ourselves in with Castaneda Elementary so much, and I understand what you're saying, but it doesn't seem to be a problem for Legacy and Trinity Innovation, because they've moved on, and if you talk to those two principals, they're handling everything very well. And they've got their issues, but they're rolling through them. You know, we've got all the stuff we need to do, we got the protocols, we just gotta have the will to do it. That's mainly what it's about.
I agree with that to a point. At a certain point, we still have to respect
We do.
the metrics that are associated with this, and just to completely ignore it, et cetera, is completely off base. I would hope that if we can come up with a date somewhere, and maybe September 28th or something like that, pick a date, hope that, and I think you can go away from the 2-week metrics or 2 weeks or whatever it is, but pick October or September 28th as an opening date. That gives this time, and we're still gonna monitor these as much as possible. So if we suddenly have a spike, a massive spike in Pinal County, what are you gonna do? If for some reason you have a spike, et cetera, right here, are you just gonna ignore things and not react to the reality of what's going on the ground? But I think if we pick a date, like you're saying, the 28th, whether the elementary school is back in place or not, we give our district a chance to open up. Things are headed in the right direction. We're gonna try and adhere to the metrics as much as possible. But that we go ahead and pick a date like the 28th and go ahead and give folks a chance to plan and get this thing open. You've got 27 days to try and figure out, added substitutes or whatever we've got to do, but try and get this thing open, at least do a test run to see how, and find out if you're ready. Because it'd be really disappointing if we came back after fall break and we've had all of this time, another 9 weeks. We come back after fall break, we open the doors, and we have issues.
I second that emotion.
Emotion or motion?
Did you make a motion?
Okay, so are we going to, we need a new motion, and as far as we're going to follow the guidelines, but for the recommendations, but we're not going to be bound to 2 consecutive weeks after.
That was something we came up with.
Right.
That's not,
Right.
this is 2 weeks behind. But we were gonna try and follow the guidelines as close and as long as they're trending
Right.
in the right direction.
Okay.
And that we need to set a firm date. And wait anyway. And then, now, Dr. Beebe, is that something that you can, has a value or doesn't have a value? We need honesty and, some direction.
I think it has a value. I've appreciated the discussion and the openness from you. I think knowing, once we know what the factors are that are influencing the opening, then we can work with them. And again, like we talked about earlier, and again, we're talking about ours, because that's something important right now. But you're gonna see a number of districts in Maricopa County and around the state start opening back up on the 8th, and not all of them will be opening because all 3 benchmarks have been met in entirety for 2 weeks. You know what I mean? So, I think that's something that we can live with. At least we know where we're going. And I appreciate the board is making safety of our employees a key factor here too.
Essentially, if you tell these folks today, the clock's on, they've got 10 days. That's from today. But right now, they've got to the 28th, but they know that's their firm date. And so they need to get everything set and ready to go.
That gives
Food,
us
buses,
time to get
all of your
everything aligned.
PPE, whatever else you need to do to get in place, and that you have staff, and maybe you've worked out some daycare, childcare, or something like that. And that gives folks a chance to kind of plan what they're up to also, as opposed to this 2-week kind of thing, and then trying to decide. I think they need if you give them essentially 30 days to kind of plan their life, then maybe there's a chance to plan their life.
Right.
And then fall break, everybody can catch their breath, go home and close the doors again and hope you don't run into anything.
Yep.
We'll change it to trending in the right direction instead of meeting 2 consecutive weeks.
Yeah, I just think, and specifically where we have Maricopa County and you have some of these other schools, I think Pima County is still closed until for the first semester, aren't they? For a lot of Tucson?
Yeah, they're staying close until the end of the first 9 weeks.
And a lot of the Chandler schools are still closed for the first 9 weeks?
No, they're coming back.
They're starting to come back?
Yep, Silver, Chandler. So, everybody's getting ready to come back. So I know I don't know, I'll find out more tomorrow, but I know in our county, Maricopa was originally coming back on the 8th, so was Orange Unified. Coolidge is not, I can't remember their date, they're staying out a little longer. But I'll find out more tomorrow from the Vidal County Superintendent. My understanding is the Combs is looking to come back again on the 8th.
And that's right after Labor Day?
Yeah. Yeah,
And we were talking about originally coming back on the 14th?
Yes.
right. So the 28th pushes another 2 weeks out beyond that, so. And like you said, would give us 2 solid weeks of being in school before we end the quarter.
Do we want to try for sooner?
Nancy's mentioned sooner.
What was that?
I just said, by 1 week, I don't mean the 14th, I don't know. Does the 28th gives hopefully everybody enough time to do whatever they need to do to try to make it the very best it possibly can be.
Yep.
And then there's just straight up 2 weeks before fall break. Then you come back on the 28th, so you get an actual 10 days of teaching in class, so everybody gets a little taste of what the new world order is going to be like.
Make a motion to start school on September 28th, as long as the
Trending in the right direction.
trending in the right direction.
No, we will open school.
Return to modified.
We will return to a modified
Yes.
with the modified system on September 28th, and with everything heading in the right direction.
Okay, you want to make that motion? Then go ahead.
I think that's,
Okay, so you're gonna move to return to modified in-person instruction on September 28th, as long as the benchmarks are trending in the
Right direction.
right direction.
with the benchmarks trending in the right direction. And that'll be the board decision. So that's, at that point, we just are monitoring at that point, and then maybe it ticks up or then it ticks down. But if you're 2 out of 3 in green and red, and you can justify that it's heading in the right direction, that just gives you that little bit more time to kind of get things down.
Is that good for you, Joe? Or did you hear that?
I'm sorry, what was that last remark?
Did you hear the motion?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
We need a second.
Second?
I second that.
Any more discussion?
Yes, I seconded it.
Yes, any more discussion on that?
Mr. Wright,
No,
Ms. Hawkins,
Yes.
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
and Mr. Hennis.
Yes,
Okay. 6F, donations. Move to accept the following donations, $2,846 from Western Bank to Vista Grand Football Club.
so moved.
I'll second that.
And thank you very much, that's a nice
That's a
donation.
huge.
Okay, on to the
Wait,
consent agenda.
Mr. Wright,
Yes,
Mr. Lopez,
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins?
Yes.
And Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
Okay, consent agenda, we have items A through H. Is there anything you want taken off for discussion? Move to approve items A through H on the consent agenda.
I'll move.
Second,
Okay.
third,
Mr. Wright?
yes.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes.
Mr. Hennis?
Yes.
And Ms. Hawkins?
Any future agenda items that anybody wants brought up? I skipped over the informational only items, there weren't any. Okay,
There's a
move
blank
to
spot
adjourn.
right there. I'll move to adjourn.
Let's second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye.